Welcome to the Back in Charge Executive Briefing. And this is just a short briefing for CEOs, MDs, and HR directors on pressure, behavior, and also performance. You see, most businesses, they don't realize that pressure is becoming a problem because people start saying they're stressed. You see, that is the end result, but it's also the actual cause of it has happened a long time before. And things are starting to show with that. Communication issues, decisions, people are becoming reactive. The things that people should be dealing with are getting pushed back. And people are starting to get frustrated with things that they would normally get handled effortlessly and easily. And because everything is still happening, people are still turning up and getting the work done. It looks like everything is okay. But that is what we're going to be looking at here. We're not looking at burnout. We're not looking at stress management. We are looking at what pressure starts changing before we ever get to that point. You see, people can still perform whilst the cracks are starting to show. And this is where I think a lot of people and businesses, they get caught out because they can still hit numbers. You know, when people are stretched, they can still get the numbers done. They can still deliver for clients. They can still have a busy leadership team and get stuff done. And on paper, nothing looks particularly wrong. But underneath, the way that people are working is starting to change. Conversations are becoming shorter. People are becoming reactive. People are becoming less patient. Decisions just get made to move things on. Someone stops challenging things because they don't have the energy for another discussion, right? Something gets left because everyone else has something more urgent to deal with. And the thing is, none of this looks massive on its own. But if we keep doing it for long enough and it starts changing how the business is going to operate. You see, every business has pressure. Pressure is good. Pressure is needed. Take a moment. How are diamonds formed? Diamonds are formed under pressure. When we're in the gym, we want to build muscle. The muscles grow when the muscles are put under pressure. People grow when they're put under pressure. Pressure is good. But too much, then that is the problem. Okay. And the business is no different, right? There's deadlines, there's client issues. We have targets, we have cash flow, we have people problems. And we have periods where we all just need to dig in. But that isn't what we're talking about, right? I'm talking about when that stops being a period and it becomes the norm. It just becomes how the business runs. Week on week, everything just feels urgent. And people are then constantly reacting. Leadership meetings are becoming about what needs fixing today instead of rather than where the business is going and the vision and the momentum and are we actually aligned? And eventually people get used to it. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase, like you might have heard it where you currently are or in a previous place. It's how we do things here. It's how we do things. And that bit is when it becomes dangerous. Because once everyone starts to accept it as normal, we then stop questioning whether it is actually helping us perform to our best. Now, this is one of those things that I think that gets underestimated, okay? A leader's pressure rarely stays with the leader. Okay, so if you're a CEO, an MD, or a senior leader, right, your pressure doesn't stay with you. People feel it. People notice your energy. People can see when you're rushed. They can notice when you're less available. And they notice when every conversation feels urgent. They notice when something that normally wouldn't bother you suddenly does. and then people start adjusting around you. Like, they may not bring things up because it doesn't feel like the right time. So they're going to sit on decisions. They're going to make an assumption, and they're going to avoid a difficult conversation. Or they're going to wait for you to tell them what to do. And this is just how one person's pressure can start affecting the whole team. So if you're the leader, right, it's then going to feed into the leadership team. Then they're then going to start to change. And then their managers are then going to start to feel it. Then they're going to start to change. And then managers is then going to drip down into the wider organization. But that has all started from the leader. So are we fixing the problem, or what can we actually see? Now, this is where it gets interesting. Okay. Now, a business starts seeing problems with communication. So it starts running a communication training. People aren't following through. So the conversation then becomes about accountability. The team is overwhelmed. So they're going to get another productivity tool. But the leaders are now not managing their time. So then everyone gets sent on time management training. Okay. Like, look, some of these things are absolutely needed. But sometimes they're dealing with what we can see rather than what it is actually needed that's sitting underneath. So if people are already overloaded, adding another thing for them to do may not fix much. In fact, it might even cause more problems. And that's where I think one question is really, really important. What is pressure changing in the way our people are operating? What is pressure changing in the way our people are operating? So, what I'd like you to do is just take a moment to audit where you're at. Okay, audit your own business, audit your own team. Okay, and what we want to do is we want this to feel like recognition. Okay, so that's what I want you to do with here. So, if I was to come in, like, what would I be looking for inside your business? You see, I wouldn't start by asking everyone, "Are you stressed?" Like, it's not that. Like, I'd start to look at what has started becoming the normal. Are the same issues coming back into meetings? Are decisions being delayed? Are difficult conversations taking too long to happen? And are managers spending most of their time firefighting? And is everything being labelled urgent? Are people becoming more frustrated and more reactive than they used to be? And for some, you might notice that they're actually becoming quieter. You see, when people become stressed, when they put under pressure, not everyone is going to get louder and more frustrated and air their struggles. A lot of people are going to take it within. So have you noticed people are now, retreating and becoming more reserved in meetings, in working decisions? And finally, our leaders so busy doing that they've just got very little time left to actually lead because they're doing all of the above. And you see, that is going to tell us a hell of a lot more instead of asking people, "Are you stressed?" Because it's those things that are the early signs that the way people, which is going to show us the way people are operating and things are starting to change. So there's 3 questions I'd like to ask you for your leadership team. So if you're watching this as a CEO, an MD, or an HRD, please ask these 3 questions. Where are we seeing pressure change our behaviour? Not where are people saying they're busy, but where is it changing their behaviour? And what I mean by that is their communication, their decisions, their challenging. Are they actually following through with what they've said? And also how they lead others. Second one, what have we started accepting as normal? Like, are we now constantly firefighting? Is everything now urgent? Are the hours that we're working now becoming longer? And also, is the tasks taking a longer time to get completed now? And are we finding ourselves having the same conversations coming back week after week? Because people constantly being unavailable because they're too busy. And finally, the third question is, if we carry on exactly like this for another 6 months, what starts getting affected? And this is a really important one. Will our customers get affected? Will the execution of our work get affected? Will our leadership get affected? Will our actual leadership team get affected by them leaving? Okay. Will our staff stay? Because then they've just had too much and they can't handle it anymore. So it's actually easier to leave and find a new job than it is for actually us to fix the problem. The culture inside the organization, will that get affected if nothing changes? And what about the commercial performance? Okay. And that one is probably one of the most important ones that we need to look at. If nothing changes, okay, what's it going to look like for the commercial performance? So the question isn't, are we coping? Because I think people and businesses can cope for a long time, okay? Because people are good at adapting. We find ways just to keep going. The better question, and also the big question here from all of this, is, are we operating as well as we should be? Because by the time you have an obvious performance problem, some of these behaviors may have been there for months and months prior. And that's what sits behind the work that we do in the Back in Charge Blueprint. We help decision makers and leadership teams look at what pressure, energy, and behavior are doing to the way people operate. Not after it becomes a major problem, but before. So if you've watched this and recognized a few things inside your own business, that is probably worth a conversation. Now, I run a complimentary session for organizations and teams where we look at this in more detail. So if you think that this could be useful, message myself or Kerry Alexander on LinkedIn, and we can have a quick conversation to see whether that this will be a good fit for yourselves.